government has taken a bold step to change the tax architecture in Nigeria, as opposed to change the tax landscape. This tax reform has been applauded because it will increase our places in ease of paying taxes and ease of doing business. What that means is that all filing system will be done online, real time, to reduce face-to-face interaction. So that will actually stem corruption.
In a developing nation like Nigeria, taxes are the lifeblood of the economy. They fund our roads, schools, hospitals, and public services. But when corruption seeps into the system, national growth slows down and citizens are left to bear the costs. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Transparency Files, a public enlightenment program of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, bringing you insights on integrity, accountability, and transparency in governance. I am your host, Hawasani Garba. Today, we will be discussing how the recently passed Tax Reform Act can help curb corruption and ease economic bottlenecks in Nigeria. But first, let's catch up on the latest anti-corruption updates with Joy Aja. Later in the program, we will explore the opportunity cost of corruption, take you through highlights from our state offices, and bring you other exciting features. Stay tuned.
Hello viewers, thank you for staying with us. My name is Joy Aja with Anti-Corruption Stories. ICPC has secured the conviction of one Mustafa Muhammad and Tijani Adam Goni, both of the National Assembly Abuja, for defrauding one Saifuddin Yakub and Aminu Abubakar of the sum of 4,800,000 naira only over alleged job scam to secure a job for the petitioners at the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Federal Inland Revenue Service, respectively. The case stemmed from a petition submitted to the Commission by Mr. Saifuddin Yakub and Mr. Aminu Abubakar that on the 27th day of May 2021, the fraudulent Mustafa Muhammad, who is currently at large, claimed that the first defendant was his friend and a staff of the National Assembly, Abuja, promised to secure 2 job slots in Central Bank of Nigeria for 4 million naira, and that the offer letter will be released on 27th day of April 2021. They said Mustafa Muhammad demanded a sum of 3 million naira from the 2 petitioners, which was deposited into a Zenith Bank account belonging to the first defendant. Investigation further revealed that on the 27th of April 2021, the first defendant further demanded the sum of 300,000 naira each from the applicants for an alleged medical screening. The sum was transferred to an Access Bank account belonging to Badruddin Mohammed. Following diligent investigation by the ICPC, the defendants were arraigned before Honorable Justice B.M. Bassi of the Federal Capital Territory High Court, number 55, sitting in Asokoro. Prosecuting counsel to the ICPC, Fatima Abdullahi Bardi, informed the court that the defendants were charged on a 5-count charge bordering on the defendants' corrupt act of alleged job scam to secure jobs for the petitioners at the Federal Inland Revenue Service and the Central Bank of Nigeria. Pursuant to Section 270 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, which stipulates the terms for plea negotiations, the defendants pleaded guilty to a lesser charge in addition to mandatorily refunding the sum of 4.8 million naira into the ICPC recovery account. Furthermore, the defendants pleaded guilty to the 1-count amended charge of making false statements contrary to Section 25 of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000 and were sentenced to pay a fine of 100,000 naira each after making the full payment into the Commission's recovery account. In another development, ICPC has reaffirmed its unwavering commitment to transparency, accountability, and due process in the conduct of its 2025 assets disposal exercise. This declaration was made by the chairman of the Commission, Dr. Musa Adamu Aliyu SAN, during his address to auctioneers at the official bid opening ceremony held at the ICPC headquarters in Abuja recently. Dr. Ali, who was represented by the director of the Systems Study and Review Department, Mr. Olusegun Adigun, emphasized that the entire process would be guided by transparency, integrity, and merit. He noted that the Commission's credibility depends on how faithfully it upholds these core principles. In her remarks, the Director of the Proceeds of Crimes Department, Mrs. Grace Araibe, echoed the Chairman's position, reaffirming that the Commission remains deeply committed to ensuring that every process reflects integrity and fairness. And that'll be all on this segment. Transparency Files continues with Hawa. Please stay with us.
Corruption not in my country.
I don't get a lot. Boy, they won't booga me small. They say, man, give them bribe. I say, nothing. Okay, now, we'll go block later. You remember that contract we will do that time now? They don't pay.
But first, you see the house rent with the old since. We go first call caretaker, take the money, slap am.
Beg, see, you know, say I get annual levy why they pay for club. Where me and boys they shout beer in our house, I could pay that one. You remember say me I tell you I go buy you motor. I go buy now.
Okay, then pay you money now. We don't they beg caretaker? We would they beg landlord, old man, and they agree give us time. Money can't come now. You won't divert time. You said na corruption. Corruption, not in my house and not in my country.
Sure?
Sure.
Corruption not in my country.
You are still watching Transparency Files. Welcome back. Nigeria's tax system remains a vital instrument for national development. In June 2025, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu signed into law 4 landmark tax reform bills set to take effect from January 1st, 2026. The reforms are designed to improve revenue generation, streamline tax administration, expand the tax nets, and enhance the business environment, particularly for corporations, individuals, and digital transactions. In this segment, we will explore how these reforms can help curb corruption, block leakages, promote fairness, and strengthen administrative efficiency in the tax sector. To shed more light on this, the ICPC recently spoke with Matthew Osaniku, Director, Field Operations Monitoring Department, Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS. Let's take a listen.
This is a transformation shift, and it's a big tax landmark. And the government has taken a bold step to change the tax architecture in Nigeria, as opposed to change the tax landscape. Every country came together, and there was one international agreement that there is need for domestic resource mobilization. That is, countries should look inward and ensure it does not depend on the debt or borrowings to run their government. So the only sustainable source of revenue has been agreed to with taxation. So our tax system actually needs a total overhaul. So what the tax reform has done is a total overhaul of the tax system. Because what we have currently is that we have a lot of tax legislation in non-tax legislation. That is tax legislation in non-tax laws. And sometimes it creates uncertainty in the tax system. So what the tax reform has done is to harmonize all taxes into 4 documents. The Nigerian Tax Act, the Nigerian Tax Administration Act, the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Act, Joint Revenue Board Establishment Act. So those 4 documents is the new outcome of all these tax reforms. So then, what has this done to the Nigerian economy? How this will curb corruption? Currently in the country, we have about 66 structured taxes in the country and over 200 unstructured taxes. Taxes that government at several levels of government, at the federal level, state level, and local government level, just bring for the blues. And so that has actually led to a lot of corruption. So what this tax reform has also done is to ensure that all these taxes are harmonized and reduced into 1 digit. So that alone itself is a sweeper to the tax system. This tax reform have been applauded because it will increase our places in ease of paying taxes and ease of doing business. The government is actually very deliberate to support the growth and development of SMEs. So one is to define a small business and also a small company. So the NTA, the small business, is defined as a company with an annual turnover of 100 million plus a total asset of 250 million. That's for small business. So in the NTA of 100 million. Why we have in the NTA, for the purpose of company income tax, is to define a small company as company having an annual turnover of 50 million and with total asset of 250 million. So what that means is that if you fall into those categories, that is, you're a small company or you're a small business, your company income tax or income tax will be taxed at 0%. It means you are exempt for income tax. So what that means is that you're going to plug in the profit back to the business. So that will also lead to growth. Then if you are also a small business, that is, you have a turnover of 100 million and the total asset less than 250 million, right? You are exempt from obligation to register for VAT. You are exempt from obligation to collect VAT. Also exempt from also charging. So there are 3 levels. So registration, charging, and collecting. Those that are earning minimum wage, they are also exempt from tax. Then the tax regime also for personal income tax also has exempt taxable income of 800,000 or less, right, from income tax. Right. So this is to encourage a small business, encourage SMEs. The tax system will be now more efficient because the tax law has actually laid the foundation, right? The new tax law laid the foundation for the tax administration and put that at the levels of government to move from the current tax administration 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0. What that means is that to modernize the tax system, right? So what we are doing currently is to move to tax administration 2.0. What that means is that all filing system will be done online, real time, to reduce face-to-face interaction. So that will actually stem corruption. So one of the things the laws have also done is to insert a provision that the tax authority will accredit the tax agent. So that is going to stem out quacks, from the tax system, because that is one of the loopholes of corruption, because they are intermediary between the tax authority and taxpayers. Provisions of the law are enhanced, so ranging from fines to imprisonment in the laws. So both the tax authority, officer of the tax authority, for even officer of the tax authority, right? If you divulge information, the law have inserted a provision that the officer of the tax authority is liable to 5 million fine or 3 years imprisonment. Then for tax agent colluding, also a fine of 3 million and or optional fine or 3 years imprisonment. So they also have some other provision that talks about falsification of records. Right, and increase the liability by 1 million fine or 3 years imprisonment. So you can see that the sanctions have been enhanced. So tax consultants should note that going forward, as long as you are accredited, the era of quack returns is over. So we have been mandated to increase our tax distribution from 18%, from 10% to 18%. So I'm now going to do that to ensure that we move towards fiscalization, to move towards e-invoicing. That is the way to go. And if you do that, even currently, the whole tax reform, I can tell you, have been applauded among the Committee of Nations. In meetings among 8 of member states, member countries, UN, and OECD. They've asked for some of this information I've given them and say that we're actually ready to ensure that we move to the tax administration system that is globally applauded. And that's where we actually go to. So that level is where you get to the time that you don't need to file your returns. Transaction will be seen. We don't actually to validate the tax returns. We see it, for instance, we have any income of 1 million every month. So every year, at the end of the year, we see that we have 20 million. Just we present those information to yourself, validate. That's how it's done in all most of these advanced countries. So that's where we're moving to tax 3.0 and to a level they call aspirational level. Because there are 5 levels. The first level is called emerging, second level is called progressive, third level is called standard. We are moving to leading, which is the fourth level when we move to tax 2.0. The last level is called aspirational, to aspire to be counted among one of the most trusted and efficient tax institutions in the world. That's our vision currently for FRS, and that could be a vision for the NRS going forward.
Welcome to this segment. Sexual harassment and gender-based violence often occur when individuals in positions of authority abuse their offices for personal gain. Section 19 of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000 clearly prohibits such conduct. Today, we examine gender-based violence in the context of workplace corruption and how it can be effectively addressed. Social commentator Habiba Ahmed shares her thoughts on this pressing issue. Let's hear from her.
If we're going to do a deep dive of how sexual harassment occurs, then we'll understand that corruption is a key player here. In every institution or every setting you find yourself, we have already existing issues like power imbalance, lack of transparency, lack of accountability, judiciary issues. But then what makes it deeper is corruption. Because once there's accountability and the processes are fair and transparent, then we will not have these issues reoccurring or going deeper in our day-to-day life. So coming back to how does corruption links, corruption encourages power imbalance. When he knows there's no accountability, when he knows he can bribe his way through it, why won't he use his position to do more, evil or demand for sex or demand for money? And when he knows that even if he's taken to the legal court, he has a way of, giving bribe and giving money to change the judgment, for the judgment to be in his favor. Why won't he do it? It encourages gender-based violence within the school institution. And then it also silences the victim. When she knows that even when she takes it to the school institution, there's nothing that would be done. She knows that this person has more power, has more money, has more resources to push the whole thing in his favor, then why would I take the issue? So, and once there is silence, there's continuity, because once we don't speak out, we will not know it, and how can we demand for accountability? So corruption is really a key player in enhancing sexual harassment in institutions and offices. From what I have said, how corruption deepens this issue. We all know the whole sex for grade conversation, where a lot of students are being even taken to panel. They're not even allowed to speak. Sometimes they end up restricting the students or chasing them out, saying it's their fault, what did you wear, and all those things, because the lecturer has more power than her, or because he has bribed his way through it. So you see how it promotes silence. And when one student is a case study, of course I won't go to that rigorous procedure of even losing my admission because of 10 naira or 20 naira that I have to pay. Now you see how corruption silence. In terms of redress or recourse, it's more like we need to now bring in ICPC. I think with the current sexual harassment cases that have been coming out, it's as a result of intervention of ICPC. We have independent bodies that work to address issues like this, civil society, NGOs, and the rest. So we can have students reporting these things, and it's for the institution to have a gender and anti-sexual harassment policy, whereby you have independent committee that investigate these issues, that compromises of different people outside the university or institution building. So all these things can help, find where we have a balance. If he can bribe some within the institution, he can't bribe some outside the institution. Mm-hmm. So it kind of creates a channel or process of accountability and transparency. And of course, if we follow that processes, there would be a transparent and fair judgment.
Welcome back. As we move towards the end of today's edition, let's now join Damilola Oyejegede for updates and highlights from our ICPC state offices.
Welcome to State Offices Report. In Niger State, the ICPC has sensitized the management and staff of the Nigeria Customs Service, Niger Kogi Command, on anti-corruption principles and ethical conduct. The session, attended by the Comptroller Pascal Triboke, featured presentations by Superintendent Moses Galadima on fighting corruption in MDAs, the ICPC perspective, and Mrs. Fauzia Abubakar on the National Ethics and Integrity Policy, NEIP. Coming from Benue State, ICPC, in collaboration with the Benue State Sexual Assault Referral Center, SARC, and a core member attached to the gender unit of the Police Command, sensitized pupils of LEA Primary School, Wurkun Makurdi, on the theme, Rape is a Crime. The session, led by Mr. Akibu Garba of ICPC, Mrs. Agan Nancy Kwaso of SARC, and Ms. Oriyomi Precious Ayomikun from the Police Gender Unit, focused on educating young students on the dangers of sexual abuse and the importance of speaking up. From Imo State, ICPC has inaugurated the Anti-Corruption and Transparency Unit Act 2 at the Federal University Teaching Hospital, Owerri, to promote integrity and accountability in public service. Deputy Director Mrs. Chinwe Egbelcha commended the hospital's management for supporting the initiative and urged the new members to uphold transparency, professionalism, and ethical standards. The Chief Medical Director, Dr. Kingsley Achigbu, reaffirmed his commitment to the anti-corruption values, while the newly inaugurated ACTU Chairman, Mr. Denin Chukuma, pledged to ensure the unit remains a model of integrity and good governance within the institution. ICPC Kaduna State Office has received a courtesy visit from the Nigerian Bar Association Kaduna Branch Human Rights Committee. The visit aimed to strengthen collaboration and deepen the working relationship between both institutions in promoting justice, integrity, and rule of law in the state.
I am a Nigerian, a highly cultured race. My culture abhors corruption, and with my integrity, a new Nigeria is possible. I say no to corruption today to build a future for my children. Join me and imbibe the culture of integrity to build a Nigeria of our dreams.
And that's how far we can go on this week's edition of Transparency Files. Don't forget to follow the ICPC on our social media platforms. The handles are displayed on your screen. You can also watch previous episodes on our YouTube channel at ICPC Nigeria. Thank you for watching. I am Hawasani Garba saying bye for now.